A very good evening to you, Tony. Thanks for joining us for the Friday edition of the show. Promises to be exciting. It's the last one for the week, and we'll make it worth your while. I'm Yemi Adebayo. Let me give you a quick rundown of what to expect on the show tonight. We're going to touch a lot of places on the show tonight. We're going to have a slice of basketball, a woman that made history with the Kenya men's basketball team. Hopefully, we get the chance to have a conversation with her tonight. We're also going to be talking about Tiger Woods. We're going to be talking about Nigeria Professional Football League, the English Premier League. A lot will go down this weekend. We'll talk about it. Big games in the English Premier League. We'll also take a look at the rebranded Principals Cup. We'll take a look at it because it kicked off today after more than a decade of the competition being put on hold. There was a kickoff today. We'll talk about all of that for you on the show. So sit back, relax, and enjoy what's on offer. I've told you what's on the menu. So just sit back. There's a lot to do. So now let me bring you into all that we're going to do on the show tonight. In case you're joining us for the first time and you're wondering how you can be a part of the show, we got you covered. This is how you can be a part of the show. Send us a mail, sportstonight@channelstv.com. On Facebook, Channel 7 Sports, get across to us as well. Then on Twitter, that verified handle that we always talk about, you can get across to us, sending your tweet at channels_sports. Earlier, I told you about a lady who has made history, talking about Liz Mills, the name on everyone's lips, talking about basketball. She's the coach. She's the lady, and she's the coach of the Kenya men's basketball team. And after 28 years, she was able to help Kenya return to the FIFA Afrobasket Championship. And that's why we're having a conversation with her. And they did it in grand style. Defeated a team that's over 100 points ahead of them on the ranking. Talk about the much dreaded Angolan team. They did it in style. So we have that conversation. Greetings to you, Liz. Thanks for joining us today on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
All right. Everybody's singing your praises. They're talking about you, an amazing feat. And I can imagine how you feel. But as much as I can imagine how you feel, I'm not you. Take us through what you're feeling right now, how everything just unraveled and everybody talking about you.
Oh, look, I'm very excited and very proud of this team. As you said previously, we were the underdogs in this tournament and no one really expected us to qualify. So beating a powerhouse like Angola to qualify made it that much more sweet. The team, the country is very excited to finally be back at AfroBasket after 28 years, and hopefully we can continue to have some great results in August in Rwanda.
All right. Let me ask you, when you took this job, did you ever imagine that you will be the one after 28 years to lead the men's team back to the AfroBasket? Did it cross your mind, or that was that was what you wanted from the beginning?
That's what I wanted from the beginning, and I knew that's exactly what this team wanted as well. We're not one of those teams that just go to participate. We went to win all three games. Obviously, we only played about 20 minutes of great basketball against Senegal, but I knew that if we could build on that, we'd be able to really take on Angola. So we're proud of how we performed, and you can never count us out, and that's exactly how we feel heading into AfroBasket. Regardless of who we're competing against, we're always going to go out and try and get wins.
I know a lot of people will ask you this question, and I'm not an exemption. I'm going to ask you as well. I'm very sure you have a ready-made answer. You're in a unique environment, a lady handling a men's team. What's the experience like? What are the unique challenges that comes with being a woman then leading a men's team?
Look, I've been coaching in Africa for 10 years now, and so it kind of feels like for a lot of teams and players here, I'm old news. It's really everybody else who's only just realized what I've been doing all these years. My team's players have always embraced me, and I actually feel that Africa as a whole has embraced me, especially in more recent years where I've had the opportunity to work with a variety of teams. I think it's more a unique experience for people who have never seen me coach. There's always challenges as a coach, be that men or women's teams, but I actually don't feel like my gender actually plays a role for the players that I work with. As long as they know that I have the qualifications and experience to lead them, they don't care if I'm male or female.
All right. I mean, what you've achieved is, I mean, everyone around the globe is hearing it. We also hear that the Kenyan government has been celebrating this success, hailing the achievement of the team. How does this make you feel? Your name on the lips of everybody, Kenyans, as high as the people at the helm of affairs singing your praise. How does it make you feel?
To be honest, it's actually quite overwhelming. The media attention has kind of, I think, bit overboard. Because if you think about it, we're in 2021. And should we be celebrating a milestone like this? This should have been decades ago. We should by now have women in these kind of roles, and it should be normal. But it is, I'm glad we've made this breakthrough, and I'm glad the Kenyan public are really happy for this team. And obviously it wasn't just me, there was the players, the federation, our sponsors. It was a team effort all the way through. And I hope that we celebrate everybody that was involved.
All right, let's put the celebration aside for a while if you can. We'll get back to that. But I mean, you just, a lot of people would think, okay, you've done your best, fold your hands, but here you are talking about not being your team not being a pushover. You're going to Rwanda to compete. You want to punch above your weight. You've done that already by defeating Angola. But I mean, it looks like an uphill task.
Oh, look, obviously a lot more teams have that AfroBasket experience, which they can rely on. A lot of other teams will have NBA or EuroLeague players that will be available. But we're up for the challenge, or else we wouldn't be going. And playing against top teams like Tunisia, Senegal, Egypt, Cameroon, these kind of teams are what you live for if you're a competitor. You want to measure yourself against the best teams in Africa. You want to see what the gap is and how you can improve. And obviously, this is Kenya's first trip back to AfroBasket in 28 years. Let's not expect miracles, but we are going to be stepping in the right direction.
Well, you kind of touched a nerve in me somehow. You mentioned the top teams in Africa. You didn't say Nigeria. I guess maybe you just missed it out. So I want to ask if if you just missed that, or you don't see us as one of the top teams in Africa.
Oh, look, it's difficult with Nigeria because obviously you're a great basketball team, but in terms of developing local talent, this has been a huge gap for the country. And so when you play the Nigerian national team, are you playing a team that represents the basketball in Nigeria, or is it the basketball from America where a lot of these players are from? Obviously, those players are highly skilled. A lot of them are NBA caliber players, and it's going to be fantastic for Kenyan players to have experience against that elite level of player. But when I'm talking about Tunisia, Senegal, these teams have all developed their players in those countries, and they're a reflection of the basketball played in that country.
So bottom line, it wasn't a mistake. You deliberately didn't mention Nigeria. All right, I just brought that up for laughs. Anyway, all right, so let's move on. You right there in Kenya. What's right there in Kenya? What's most African countries, football is the #1 sport. You have few countries that are multi-sport nation. Kenya happens to be one of them because I know they're involved in other sports as well. But I mean, do you think there's any sort of apathy for basketball in Kenya, or you think they're beginning to embrace basketball the same way they're embracing football, maybe cricket, and some of the other things that Kenya is involved in?
Well, look, football and rugby sevens in particular is still very popular in Kenya, also volleyball and netball. So I think with the success of the team at Africa in Mali in 2019, that really started it was a spark that set people afire in terms of interest in basketball here. And I think with our most recent performance, we're seeing more and more people jump on board and get excited. So imagine what would happen if we actually had a very good performance at AfroBasket and then, starting with World Cup qualifiers later this year. I think we're starting to make ground, but obviously, it's not going to happen overnight, and we have to continue to be successful in order to start competing with those other sports.
Before we talk about World Cup qualifiers, let's talk about AfroBasket. Your team has lost the element of surprise. People know you now. People will pay attention to you now. So how are you going to handle that? It's not the classic David Goliath anymore. I mean, you've defeated Angola, so people are going to pay attention. So how do you handle that?
Well, I think we're still going to be underdogs. I know Angola want to see us again at AfroBasket. And no doubt, some of those top teams like Nigeria would like to, put us in our spot. So I think for us, it's about staying focused on what we can control. We can't think about what those teams are doing and how they're going to compete against us. We still have a lot of talent that we haven't used yet. And given the fact that I only had 2 weeks with this team before we went to Cameroon, hopefully we have a longer period of time to be together before AfroBasket. And we've still got a lot of areas that we can improve in. So we're looking forward to getting better and better leading into AfroBasket.
Which makes me want to ask you the exposure that your players have now. What do you think the exposure would do for them? And where do you hope it will take them? Are you hoping to see them leave the shores of Kenya, go to the NBA, EuroLeague? I mean, what do you hope that this exposure will bring? What will be the benefits of, being a big player now, returning to Africa's elite after 28 years?
Oh, look, I think any exposure for African basketball players, not just Kenyan players, is great. And that's what I love about AfroBasket and World Cup qualifiers. This is when more scouts will start paying attention to African players who sometimes get overlooked. My hope is that we'll see a lot of these Kenyan players participating in the Basketball Africa League. Hopefully that happens this year, and that's even more exposure for these guys, and they might end up getting contracts in Europe or North America. And it might inspire the younger Kenyan players to start, playing basketball at an earlier age. Often, African players start playing at 15 or 16, and hopefully we get Kenyan players starting a bit earlier, and then that feeds into the US college system and eventually the NBA. But that's over a period of 10 to 15 years. But in the near future, I hope that these guys are playing in the Basketball Africa League and continue to represent their countries at World Cup qualifiers, etc.
As a basketball coach, when young people come up to you and say, well, I want to play basketball, what's the incentive? What can I aspire to? What are the opportunities? What would you say to, because this will make you start answering those questions. The young ones will look at the guys in your current squad, they've done it. But, I mean, what can they get beyond now they're back at AfroBasket? What can the young ones aspire for?
Oh, look, I think there's so many benefits from playing a sport, whether it's basketball, football, whatever. There are life skills, teamwork, leadership, accountability, and it also helps in mental health as well as physical health. It's not only just about finances or exposure. You can take these skills into any aspects of your life. And so I always say that, especially to young kids wanting to play any sport, that it will benefit you in more ways than you will know, mentally, physically, holistically. There are no downsides to participating, whether you become a superstar or you just play it socially. I always recommend that kids these days participate.
Okay, I'm going to ask you something that's not really, in the sphere of what we've been talking about since. There's this thing that, some of us have had to grapple with, and it's good. I get the opportunity to ask somebody who's not from this continent this question. Do you think there's a gulf in class when it comes to talent between the United States, Europe on one side, and Africans in the game of basketball. Do you think, in terms of talent, that there's that gulf in class? You know, can you pick a 7-year-old
Yeah.
here and a 7-year-old from the United States, and in terms of talent, there won't be much difference?
I actually don't think so. I think the gap is really closing. I think there's always been potential and talent in Africa. The difference being that the players and coaches here don't have the same opportunities and infrastructure to help them develop like a player would in the US, Europe, or Australia. If they had the same infrastructure, coaching, administration of the game that is in Europe, the US, or Australia, here in Africa, Africa would be dominating the world of sport.
That's very comforting for me, sitting on this chair and listening to you, a basketball coach, say that, and for me to hear it's very comforting, because you look at the players in the NBA and you look at the ones back home and you're wondering. So as far as you're concerned, what could bridge the gap is the opportunities, the infrastructure, yes, and all the facilities. If you have that, then you can have, LeBron James and all those kind of players come out from Africa.
Exactly. That's it. That's the missing link. And I think that's what's going to be great about the Basketball Africa League. They're really going to be bringing in strong rules and regulations and guidelines to assist in the development of administration of the sport across the continent, which I think is the biggest issue at the moment, as well as coach development. We have all this talent and potential as players, but we don't have the coaches to help them get to where they need to be. The Basketball Africa League is going to help the entire ecosystem of basketball across Africa, and so I can't wait for it to launch this year.
All right, before we let you go, before we let you go, you've answered all of the questions that we'd love to ask, and we know more about Kenya than we knew before. So what's your target? What target are you setting for yourself with this team? Is it a long-term project or short-term? Or, I just want to know.
Look, I'm definitely going to be at AfroBasket in Rwanda. That's always been one of my goals since starting to coach in 2011 here in Africa. It was to lead a men's team at AfroBasket. And then for me, my focus then shifts to the World Cup. And obviously, I would love to keep working with Kenya as long as that relationship flourishes. I'm happy to work with this team, and hopefully we can continue to achieve history, and step by step we get better, and hopefully we have some more fairy tale stories for you.
All right, Liz Mills, I want to thank you for your time on the show today. Best wishes for your team. Hopefully we get to do this some other time.
Definitely. Thanks for having me.